Welcome into a new week, and we've got to put our roller skates on, gang. This is no holiday in the sky, and we need to talk about what all is going on. Hi, Thomas Miller on the Fun Astrology Podcast. Yes, holiday in the United States, but a lot of you listen outside the borders of the U.S., so we are marching on because the sky never sits still. And after a nice little weekend break and rejuvenation, I'm ripping and raring to go here because we do have a lot happening in the sky. Before we talk about above, let's talk about below for just a minute. I've got to keep my thoughts symmetric here. Several things going on. First of all, Stephanie has been working on the medical responses that many of you sent in, and we're going to work on the first 10, and then some were, so of course, a number came in after that, and we will get to those. She's working on it and making incredible progress, and it has really opened up a nice conversation of some things that I've been thinking even to incorporate here in the daily podcast. And the other big breakthrough here below the clouds is that I got started on that digital course in a big way over the weekend, and I've got that thing figured out. So there's going to be a good announcement coming up on Fun Astrology 101 as we put together the elements to learn how to do all of this stuff, and we'll be teaching it on a digital course. So I'm going to open that up pretty soon for a beta program. Now, this is not going to be like a rush to the gate with the readings. It's just going to be, if you're interested in jumping on early, queue up, because it's going to be probably, give you a time expectation, 2 weeks. I'm going to open it up for those of you who want to be a part of its development initially, and it will be greatly discounted. All right, so that's coming. Now, let's talk about this big aspect that is affecting so much of the world right now. Wow. Saturn opposing Mars. And remember, we walked this back, that it's an aspect that comes up about every 2 years. So if you just walk back, and it's about 2 years and 2 weeks is about how it shows up. So if we go back to 2019, it's mid-June. If we go back to 2017, it's about the beginning of June. If we go back to 2015, it's the middle of May, and you just keep walking it on back. So you can see in your own life what has happened in the past around the Saturn-Mars opposition. But the new kid in town is Saturn and Pluto. And I'm just convinced more and more all the time that this is about that we are going to tear down structures that don't work. Now, as we walk this back, remember Mars opposed Saturn last Thursday. I'm going to give all these U.S. times in the Eastern time zone, just like we always do. So Mars opposed Saturn Thursday night. And then the Uranus square between Mars and Uranus was on Saturday evening at 9:40 p.m. So this energy accumulated over the weekend. But remember, there was an applying phase of this, and one of the news headlines that popped out just right off the bat as this was starting to close in on its exact aspects was that building collapse in Florida, that tragedy where over 100 people, it looks like, are going to end up being buried in that rubble. And that happened in this waxing period ahead of this aspect. And I don't know how it is for those of you in Canada and Australia and South America and other parts of the world, Europe especially. I would be curious on this, is infrastructures. But I know in the United States, this infrastructure is crumbling. And when you have a crumbling infrastructure adjacent to salt water, that is a dangerous combination. So there is this metaphor almost of this corrosion that is crumbling things that don't work. You know, my little analogy about Pluto and transformation, and I talk about this in readings a lot, is when Pluto comes around, it's about tearing things down in order to build things up. And it's the tearing down that's the difficult part. But I've been looking into this more, and I did the keywords. We haven't talked about the Mastro software keywords in a while, but I looked at them for today, and here's what we have. Mourning, accident, emotionality, crisis, suffering, agitation, accident, disease, quarreling. I couldn't find a positive one up in the stronger keywords. Now, I'm looking at some other things, and I'm not going to go into the details on it because it's one of those eye crossers, and it doesn't fit Fun Astrology's format very well. But I'm looking deeper into the chart in several other areas. And Pluto has a prominent seat at the table in other slices and dices of the chart. Let's just put it that way. Pluto, even with this Saturn, Mars, Uranus combination, Pluto has a seat at this table. Now, from the Do Not Bet Against Astrology department, I just wanted to go through a few things that have happened basically since we last talked. In addition to the tragedy in Florida, there is now the Gulf of Mexico is burning. Did you know that? Did you see the picture? It is an incredible picture. Never seen anything like it in my life that I can remember. I mean, maybe it has happened. But a pipeline burst in the Gulf of Mexico, and there is an oil fire. Literally, the water is burning. There are wildfires across. Listen to this region of wildfires. Of course, in Canada, there was a headline that said, after temperature hits 101, town destroyed by wildfire and some residents' whereabouts unknown. It's about 95 miles east of Vancouver in British Columbia. There are also fires raging in Cyprus. The Mediterranean island of Cyprus has a massive wildfire, as well as Oregon, Arizona, California, and way too many others to mention. There were 2 plane crashes over the weekend, one in Philippines and one in Haiti. The one in Haiti involved missionaries. I'm just going randomly. I just randomly put these headlines down. Tyson Foods recalled 8.5 million pounds of chicken for possible listeria contamination. There were Israeli air attacks in Gaza on Saturday. The Vatican indicted 10 people, including an Italian cardinal, for financial crimes. There was a massive ransomware attack affecting 1,000 businesses in 11 countries. There was a fatal mudslide southwest of Tokyo. Have you been following the news on the Britney Spears conservatorship case? And the Delta virus, the Delta variant of the coronavirus, is spreading. Mars is opposed to Saturn, squared to Uranus. Now, you know I don't like to just look on one side of the coin, right? And there are a lot of positive aspects. So to summarize them, what I see as the positive side of this chart is that all of this is happening for our collective karmic good. Yes, sometimes the universe has to get our attention. And that's why in this podcast, I think the biggest, best benefit of everything is if we can start to live consciously. Because those are the aspects on the positive side. It's that grand trine that we talked about last week between Mars and the South Node and Chiron. And because of time, I'm not going to go into picking that one apart. We did it last week. But there's a karmic positive. And today, Pluto is in a trine with the moon. There's a positive. There's some very quick, I admit, very quick, but powerful emotional healing possible through this. So it really is about expanding this kind of message. So for those of you who have shared this podcast on your social media and told your friends and invited your friends and family into the Facebook group over at Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast Listeners on Facebook, where we have a little community there, thank you. And if you haven't, would you consider? Because the more we can get this out, the more we can affect the collective. The more we affect the collective, the more we move it forward. From getting our attention to setting intentions. And that's where we want to be, right? That's the positive side of all of this. So spread the word. That's the positive message. Basically, tell somebody that there is another side of the coin. And we will get there. Have a great day. I'll see you back tomorrow.